is my sister Nita Brady, and I'd like to talk a little bit about how Nita got involved in the Wingman program. My publisher had contacted me about writing children's books that would help children to make healthy choices in life and to stay off drugs, and so that's the bottom line with our Wingman books. And I told him, I have a sister out in California who is doing that very same thing right now in a program that she's involved with, that she developed actually, called Behind the Walls. And it's about children who are whose parents have been incarcerated due to drug or alcohol abuse, and these children are suffering. And so she has developed this phenomenal program and now is incorporating the Wingman books. And so I would like Nita to share a little bit about her Beyond the Walls program.
Thank you, Chris. Well, Beyond the Walls for Kids actually evolved from another program that I developed about 24 years ago for adult family members that had family incarcerated. And the common denominator was drug abuse, drug and alcohol abuse, which led to the criminality. So I had started Beyond the Walls for Adults about 24, 25 years ago, and had also been working with teens at juvenile hall for many, many years, about the same amount of time. But I had not ever worked with young children. In fact, to be honest, they really weren't even on my radar. And what happened was that about 7 years ago, when I retired from my job as an educator at a large hospital system, I was wondering what I was going to be doing. Now, I knew that I was going to continue with the work at juvenile hall, and I was going to continue working with adults, but I had this feeling that God had something else in mind for me. And He made it very clear. Within the first month after I retired, I had 3 women come to me separately who said, I know you have this outreach for adults that have family members incarcerated, and I know you work with incarcerated teens, but do you have anything for young children? And it just struck me that these 3 people came to me independent of each other, asking the same question: do you have anything for young children? And I didn't. And I checked in my county, and no one was addressing this huge need, even though 1 in 5 children had family members that were incarcerated, either currently or recently. And that's actually the national average, 1 out of 5 children that has a family member incarcerated. And of course, drugs are very much at the core of all of that. And so I knew that the need was great, and I knew that no one was addressing it. So Beyond the Walls for Kids was born. And I developed this program. I worked really hard on it. I got a team of people to work with me. It's an 8-week program in a support group setting, and I do work with children as young as 6 years old up through 14, elementary through middle school. And every week we discuss a different issue that these children deal with, from guilt to shame to deep sadness to anger, and it really does set them free. And especially the guilt and the shame. These little children, they think it's their fault.
Nita, why don't you share with us about the little girl who felt so guilty, and then her friend comforted her?
Right. Well, actually, she was suffering. We were having a discussion about, what it's like to have a family member that is incarcerated, and these support group settings, it gives these children a voice. This is one of the biggest things, because they don't have a voice. They're not allowed to talk about it at home often. There's nobody they can talk to about it. And it's very empowering for them to be in a support group setting with other children, so they know they're not alone, that there are other children that are also going through the same thing. And often they never knew that these other children were going through the same thing. So this one little girl, we were talking about, just because your family member is incarcerated doesn't mean that they don't love you. And this little girl, she's about 13, she spoke up and she said, "Miss Nita, I don't think my dad does love me. And I said, why do you say that, honey? And she said, because he never writes to me and he never calls me. And I asked her, do you write to him? And she said, yes. And then she hesitated and she said, but he does write to his other family and he calls his other family. And it just broke my heart. And I said, I waited for just a minute and I said, I'm so sorry that you're going through that. And my co-facilitator, he's so great. He said, honey, some stories take a long time to unfold. So don't give up. Don't give up hope. But then the magic happened. This little girl sitting next to her, actually she was not even sitting next to her. She was a few seats away. She got up out of her chair. She was about 9 years old. She walks over to the little 13-year-old who had shared this, and she put her arm around her, and she said, but we love you. We love you, and we're here for you. That's what this group is all about. And they both started to cry, and it was so beautiful. And I thought, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm here. There are many stories. I could be here all day long, but I would like to share another one, very dramatic, about just so that you can understand the depth of the pain that these children are going through. There was a little girl, 13 years old, that actually had tried to commit suicide over her father's incarceration. And the counselor told me that before class, just to give me a heads up. So, you know, the little girl came in, and for the, about the first 4 sessions, she was very withdrawn. She didn't talk much. By the time we got to the end of the class, and we have a graduation ceremony after eight sessions, and their families are invited, and we have a pizza party, and I get to meet the family members that, that they're with, whether it's grandparents or the parent that is not incarcerated. Some of these parents actually have been incarcerated that are coming. And so this little girl was like, it was like watching a flower open up. She had changed so much from the beginning to the end of the class. And then I got some feedback from the counselor about 4 months later. This little girl was still doing so well, and the mother told the counselor, these classes made all the difference in the world for this girl. And that really made me feel good that we possibly saved her life.
Yes.
And we talk about we want to save lives, and that's really what it's all about. And I am able to use the Wingman books in these support group classes, which is amazing, because it's something they get to take with them, so that it will solidify all the things that we have talked about in the classes.